Hi everyone. Uh, my parents only recently told me that I start every video with this term, but I just don't know what else to start it with. So, hi everyone. I'm going to start with this video by sharing that this is going to be an informal one. I'm trying to get it published as soon as possible so that the information reaches to you in time. Since CAT is around the corner and a lot of you might be taking mocks already, I wanted to make sure that you know a couple of mistakes which are generally made. I made all of them, and I would hope that if you go through this information in advance and you know what mistakes not to commit, you'll be in a better position. So, let's start with this video. I took a total of 43 mocks, and I still remember that I went home to take these mocks because I felt like the environment at my home was much more peaceful as compared to the dorm that I was living in. So I preferred visiting back my parents and then preparing for the final leg of the exam over there. So I took 43 mocks, and after discussing all these learning points out of the mock taking experience with my father, I arrived at these 10 mistakes that I used to make. So after every mock, I used to discuss the mistakes I made in mocks with my father, and that's how I remember what all sort of mistakes I made. So let's start with the first one. The first one is to leave a section entirely. I still remember there were three sections, and I in the first mock that I took after going back home, I attempted VRC. It went fine. Then I attempted DILR. It was sort of okay, but I remember that I felt demotivated. It was probably a little hard, and I was not sure if I did well, and I just closed the exam. Like I submitted the entire mock. So I went downstairs and I talked to my father, and he asked me, "How was your mock?" And I said it was great. So he asked me section wise, like, how did you feel? What were the questions? What was the difficulty level? And when I told him about QA, he was like, then what is even the point of taking a mock? Why don't you simply take a sectional test then? So that's when I figured that taking the entire mock doesn't only mean that you need to assess your performance section wise. It also means that you need to develop the ability to sit through the mock for 3 hours, and you also need to develop the ability to handle a difficult section, which actually paid off. Because I remember in CAT 2017, which was my first and final attempt, when I appeared for the exam, VARC was fine. DILR was comparatively difficult, and that was a time when the section could have taken a toll on my next section, which was QA. But luckily, that did not take place only and only because I developed this ability to sit through the entire mock. So, it is my suggestion that you never leave a section completely. Also, you consider each section as a separate exam. So, when you take the mock, just think that each section is a separate exam, and no matter if one section goes wrong, you shouldn't let that hamper your further sections. So this is the first point. The second mistake. Okay, so don't take a question personally. LRDI में there used to be a topic called logical reasoning में seating arrangements. So I used to love seating arrangement questions, and it's not always the case that these questions are going to be easier in the exam. And I remember in one of the mocks, I don't know why things happened with me in DILR only, but in the DILR section, a seating arrangement question was one of the hardest questions in those mocks. And I started off with the question, and I kept solving it for about 30 minutes, not realizing that I'm it's not leading anywhere and it's costing me marks. So that's when I learned another lesson. Um, I also read this somewhere, so I'll put it over here, that if you're able to solve the most difficult set but you have no time left for the easier ones, then definitely you've got your ego but you've lost your wits. So make sure that you set a stipulated time per set or per question, and then solve the set. If within that stipulated time you think that you are closer to the answer, or you feel like you're able to solve it, then go ahead and finish it. Otherwise it's better to skip it. No matter if it's a seating arrangement question or if it's a question that you love, it's perfectly fine. It's not a question, it's not a test to check whether you are the smartest person. It's a test to check whether you can take smart decisions. So make sure that you take take this tip seriously. It costed me a couple of mocks when I used to do this. Okay. The third one is to not have anything to measure. So a lot of people, when they take a mock, they forget the fact that before taking a particular mock, you are supposed to set a section that you're going to focus on. So I'll tell you how this works. So when you take a mock, just identify by analyzing it what is your weakest section according to the performance in the mock. Then, before taking the next mock, you are supposed to work on that weaker section, keeping everything else constant. What that means is that if DILR is your weakest section, then you would keep QA and VARC preparation constant. By constant, I don't mean that you'll entirely stop it, but whatever you were already doing, you'll do that much. But for DILR, you'll increase your preparation level. And then when you take the next mock, at the end of the mock, you'll measure how you performed in DILR. You wouldn't worry too much about VARC or QA because you never prepared that much for them in the first place. This helps you check your performance and measure it objectively. This I also mentioned in one of the videos on CAT motivation, which you can refer to above. The point being that if you do this, then you'll have one section as your focus section for each mock, and eventually you'll be able to pick up all your sections all together. So, this was the third mistake that I used to make. The fourth one was selecting the questions randomly. So, I remember that when I started with DILR again, I just started attempting the questions, I see, out of the blue without having any strategy in my mind. You should never do that. In fact, one of the members of the blog, her name was Shaurya. She got into IIM Ahmedabad and got 99.71 percentile. She had shared her LRDI attempt strategy as well. So similarly, a lot of people have written their attempt strategies on Quora on different blogs. I would suggest that you go through them and then you start with one strategy. You create a strategy of your own, whichever you like, and then you start with that strategy. So this is the fourth one. The fifth one, now that you have a strategy, you must make sure that you don't use the same strategy over and over again, because if you want to see improved results in your mock, then you have to experiment with these different strategies. So in the first place, when you read a couple of them, let's say in QA you read one strategy which is called the round strategy, in which you attempt all the QA questions in rounds. In the first round you attempt easier ones, in the second you attempt familiar and lengthy ones, and so on. Similarly, there's another strategy in QA which goes by the name of topic wise technique, which means that probably if you like geometry more or number system more, and you know that those questions are asked more often in the exam, then you start off with them. So this is another strategy to go about it. The only way you'll be able to figure out which one is your optimum strategy is by testing it again and again. So during the mock taking, if you have like some time left, you have 10 to 20 mocks left, then it would be better if in two mocks you use one strategy, in another two mocks you use another strategy, and you see which one works better for you. So to be able to understand which one is your optimum strategy. So this is the fifth one. The sixth one is reading the wrong statement, which I have been guilty of a lot of times, especially statements like words like not or was. I just miss out on these things, smaller things which make a lot of difference, especially in DILR. So make sure that you read the statement correctly. Now, there are two factors at play over here. One is speed and the other is accuracy. And you need a combination of both in order to be able to read the statement perfectly. Because otherwise, if you focus too much on accuracy, then you'll cost a lot of time. And if you focus a lot on speed, then you might end up reading it incorrectly. So I'll share a link with you in the description. It's a post that I wrote on how IIM students are able to comprehend fast. So the reason this is the case is because at IIMs there are a lot of case studies that you are supposed to read every day. There are 3 classes. For each class there are sometimes one or two cases, and then it becomes a lot of, like, each case has 17 to 18 pages. So you're supposed to read a lot in a day to prepare for the next class. So we sort of develop an ability to read fast and comprehend fast, which I've shared in that post. You can go through it in the description. I'm sure it will also help you with increasing your speed in terms of reading a statement. So create a balance between your speed and accuracy, and this problem will not come into play. The next one is to draw incorrect diagrams. So another example from DILR. I don't know why DILR is the feature of this video today, but so on the left hand side, you can see a diagram where I've tried to make 8 people sit around a circular table. Now, if I had to do the same thing, but I didn't know how to draw the diagram correctly, I might end up drawing a diagram like this. Now, if you are able to see it properly, then what it shows is that I have not marked the opposites correctly. Now, if a constraint comes in the exam and it says that x doesn't want to sit opposite of y, I'll never be able to judge what is the correct figure because I just didn't draw it right in the first place. So make sure you don't commit mistakes like these. And I've shared some DILR tips as well. I'll link the video above. You can refer to it and see how these kind of things can be avoided. One of the ways to avoid this is to always note down such tricks in your formula book. Now, these kind of tricks are available in the core concepts which are given in books like Arun Sharma or your coaching material. In the beginning of each chapter, you'll find these tricks on how to draw these diagrams properly. So make sure you go through them and make sure that you take a note of that. Okay, the eighth one uh, is a blunder, very often committed. I used to do this a lot. It is to think of the CAT exam while appearing for the mock. So the mock is going on, you are going through a section, and suddenly it comes to your mind, okay, fine, I'm not able to do well. What am I going to do in the final exam? What if I fail to perform in the final exam? These kind of things should not come to your mind, at least during the mock, especially if you have some time left with you, even if it's like a month left with you, because people have scored like in 80s or 90s 1 or 2 months before the exam, and they've ended up scoring more than 99 percentile in the final exam as well. The mocks are intended to improve your performance, so don't take a mock as the final attempt. Never consider it like a final attempt. It will only end up hurting you. Just think of it as an exam that you're taking to improve your current score and to identify the mistakes you are making. Which brings us to the next point, which is to never skip the mock analysis. So, taking a mock is only halfway through, but analyzing it is what is going to bring up the changed result. So, when you take a mock, take a gap of around 2 to 3 hours and then make sure that after that you carry out the analysis. I remember that on some days I used to even take 2 mocks a day. I think it was in late October or beginning of November. I used to take 2 mocks a day, and every day I used to analyze 2 mocks. So I would take a mock in the morning. So CAT has 2 slots, right? Morning and afternoon. I would take one mock in the morning slot wala time to set my biological clock that way. Then in the afternoon also I'll take that mock. But then in the evening, I would analyze both the mocks. So the thumb rule that I had over here was that I will carry out the analysis of the mock the same day when I take it. In case of proctored mocks, it might become a problem because when you take it at a coaching center, then you might have to wait for 3 or 4 days for the analysis to come out. But if it's a non-proctored mock, and if you're able to take it on the last day, which means that you don't have a scheduling issue, then it's always better to analyze the mock the same day. Or if you can have like a gap of one day, that is also fine. The point is that you should be able to remember why you marked the options that you did. So this was the ninth point, and the final point, which I've already mentioned in a lot of videos also before, is to never leave your formula book. So when you carry out a mock analysis, you'll be able to figure out a lot of tricks and a lot of pointers, which can help you with the preparation further. So let's say you find out some tricks and some concepts that you didn't know of before. If you leave them at that, then they're not going to bring about a change. The point is to note them down in your formula book and also revise them regularly every weekend so that you're able to bring about a change in your next mock score. So this was all from my side, the 10 mistakes that I used to make during my mocks. If you make any other mistakes, just let me know. It will also help other aspirants. And if you want any other videos or you have any other queries, please put them down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the video.